Welcome back to Soul's Game Dev Journey, your companion in the world of game development. Hello everyone, and welcome to the second video of our series Create a Turn-Based Strategy with Unity. Today, we're going to walk through the installation and setup process for Unity, so even if you're a complete beginner, don't worry, we've got you covered. First things first, you'll need to create a Unity account. Head over to Unity's official website, click on Get Started, and follow the instructions to create your account. Once you've created your account, you'll need to download and install Unity Hub. Unity Hub is a great tool that helps you manage your Unity projects and installations. The Projects tab is where you'll find all your Unity projects. You can create new projects, open existing ones, or even add projects that you've created elsewhere. This is essentially your workspace, where you can easily manage and switch between your projects. Next, we have the Installs tab. Unity allows you to have multiple versions of the engine installed at the same time. This is incredibly useful if you're working on different projects that require different versions of Unity. In the Installs tab, you can add new versions, remove old ones, and even set a preferred version for each of your projects. The Learn tab is a treasure trove of learning resources. Here, you'll find tutorials, sample projects, and documentation to help you learn Unity. Whether you're a beginner looking to learn the basics or an experienced developer looking to brush up on advanced topics, the Learn tab has you covered. Now, let's talk about code editors. For our project, we'll be using Microsoft Visual Studio. Visual Studio is a powerful tool with a host of features designed to make coding easier and more efficient. One of its standout features is IntelliSense. IntelliSense is a code completion aid that includes a number of features such as parameter info, quick info, and complete word. These features help you write code faster and with fewer errors by providing you with context-appropriate code choices. Visual Studio also comes with a robust debugger, which is a tool that helps you find and fix errors in your code. It allows you to pause your program, inspect the values of variables, and step through your code one line at a time. However, Visual Studio is not your only option. There are other code editors you can use, like Visual Studio Code or JetBrains Writer. Visual Studio Code is a lightweight but powerful source code editor which runs on your desktop. It comes with built-in support for JavaScript, TypeScript, and Node.js and has a rich ecosystem of extensions for other languages. JetBrains Writer, on the other hand, is a fast and powerful cross-platform. It provides rich navigation and inspections, quick fixes, refactorings, and more for net development. Choose the one you're most comfortable with. Now that we have Unity installed, we're going to dive into the world of Git and GitHub and set up our project management tools. While this is not required to follow along this project, or in need for your own projects, I strongly encourage you to get in habit of using this tool. It can save you many hours of retracing your steps or even worse, starting all over. So, let's talk about Git. Git is a version control system that lets us track changes through our project files over time. Imagine it like a time machine. It allows us to go back to any point in our project's history and see what it looked like. It is incredibly important in software development. It allows us to experiment with new features without worrying about breaking our project. If something goes wrong, we can always revert back to a previous version. Now that we understand the concept of Git as a time machine for our project, let's dive into some of its key features. One of the fundamental actions in Git is making a commit. A commit is like taking a snapshot of our project at a specific point in time. Think of a commit as a checkpoint in our project's history. It captures all the changes we've made since the last commit and gives it a unique identifier. This allows us to easily track and reference different versions of our project. But what if we want to work on a new feature without affecting the main project? This is where branches come in. A branch is like a parallel universe where we can make changes to our project without affecting the main timeline. Imagine the main timeline as the master branch and the new feature as a separate branch. We can switch between branches, make changes, and even merge them back together when we're ready. Now, while Git is great for version control, it doesn't provide a user-friendly interface or any collaboration features. That's where GitHub comes in. GitHub is a web-based hosting service for Git repositories. In addition to all the version control features of Git, GitHub also adds its own features, like bug tracking, task management, and project wikis. Now, let's say someone else has made changes to the remote repository. We can pull those changes down to our local project, merging them with our own work. Pulling is like downloading the latest updates from the server. By using Git and GitHub together, we can collaborate with others seamlessly. We can work on different branches, make commits, push our changes, and pull in updates from others, all while keeping our project history intact. So, to recap, Git is like a time machine that allows us to track changes to our project over time. Commits capture snapshots of our project's history. Branches let us work on new features without affecting the main project. Pushing uploads our changes to a remote repository, and pulling downloads updates from the server. The very first thing we'll want to do is install Git. Google Git and click on the download option or go to the address in the description. Follow the installation process. Now we could use Git with command line interface on our machine. But let's make things easier on ourselves. So let's get started by creating a GitHub account. Head over to GitHub's official website, click on Sign Up, and follow the instructions to create your account. Once you've created your account, it's time to install GitHub Desktop. GitHub Desktop is a graphical interface for Git that makes it easy to interact with your repositories. You can download it from the GitHub Desktop website. After installing GitHub Desktop and creating your first repository, you'll see a few different sections. On the top left, you have your currently selected repository. Clicking on it will open a drop-down list with all other repositories you've included in GitHub Desktop. In the middle, you have your current active branch. You can make a new one or switch between existing the same way as with repositories. On the right, you have action you can perform. Below, on the left, you have your Changes tab where you can see all the files that have been changed since the last commit. On the bottom, you can name the commit and give it a longer description. In the History tab, you have a list of all the previous commits from this branch. To the right, you have the details of the selected commit or file. A red line indicates a deletion and a green line indicates something new has been added. Single line edits, for example, will first display a deletion of the old line and then an insertion of a new line. This is it for the overview of GitHub Desktop. Now that we have our GitHub account and GitHub Desktop set up, let's create our Unity project. Open Unity Hub and click on New Project. Choose a name for your project and a location to save it. For this series, I'll name our project Fantasy Fiefdoms. If you want to have the same setup as me, choose the 3D URP template. You'll probably have to download it first. After you're happy with your settings, click on Create Project. This may take a moment. Once you've created your project, it's time to link it to a GitHub repository. Switch back to GitHub Desktop. Click on File, then Add Local Repository. Navigate to your project's location and select it. GitHub Desktop will ask you if you'd like to create a repository here. Click on Create a Repository, give it a name and a description. Now we need to create a gitignore file. The gitignore file tells Git which files or folders it should ignore, which is crucial for Unity projects. Unity creates a lot of temporary files and folders that don't need to be tracked by Git. Luckily, GitHub provides a default gitignore file for Unity projects. When creating a new repository on GitHub, simply select Unity in the Add gitignore drop-down. Once you've created your repository with the gitignore file, you can publish repository by clicking on the button, and that's it. You now have a Unity project linked to a GitHub repository, complete with a functioning gitignore file. You're all set to start developing your turn-based strategy game. In our next video, we'll start diving into the game development process. We'll discuss the type of grid we'll use for our game and start implementing basic RPG elements. If you have any questions about what we covered today, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Soul's Game Dev Journey for more game development content.